right. Welcome everyone to Perfect Your Blogging webinar. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. I am a photographer based in Germany. I'm also a podcaster. And as a Pic-Time ambassador, I have the honor of hosting today's webinar alongside Amir, who's going to be joining me very, very soon. And we're so excited about all the panels that we're able to have today. Amir, I'm going to introduce you really quickly. Amir is the CEO and co-founder of Pic-Time. He is the head of development and the brain behind Pic-Time. He finds it so important to be in touch with the community so that all the products that Pic-Time is bringing to the market is actually in direct alignment with what photographers want and need. And webinars like this allow Pic-Time to just to provide education and also see what is needed from photographers. So we love it. Amir, thank you so much for having me as a co-host, and it's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. And I'll introduce you, right? Aida, she's a photographer based in Germany, shooting elopements with her husband. So it's a couple, like in Pic-Time, it's me and Erika.
Exactly.
But not only a photographer, you're also a mentor and host of the podcast, My Wedding Season. Yeah. And helping photographers feel or dealing with the feeling of being overwhelmed, right?
Exactly. From all angles.
Yes, and we met in one of the podcast episodes you recorded with us. And since then, we're in touch.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about how photographers can enhance client experience after delivering the gallery. And that's what Pic-Time really shines in this area. And we're so grateful that you are here serving as photographers. Perfect. So we're going to have a list of panelists. It's amazing. We've got Erika from Canada. And I'm going to introduce her really quickly. Erika is one half of Two Man Studios. Erika photographs weddings alongside her husband, Lanny. If you're at all familiar with their work, you know that their photos are far from boring. Their images literally make you take a double take. I had the pleasure of seeing them on stage at Way Up North a couple years ago, and that was crazy. They're showing how they do like party photos, which was amazing. So make sure that you go to the website and check them out. And today, Erika is going to give us some insightful tips on workflow and client experience. She will specifically share with us how photographers can blog to create maximum impact. She mentors and transforms the businesses of many photographers around the world with her comprehensive education. Erika, so glad that you're here with us. She's turned on her camera, and it's so great to have her here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So good. Next up, we have Oli Sansom. Oli, if you want to turn on your camera, go ahead, do that. Oli is a wedding photographer based in Melbourne, Australia. His style of wedding photography is so unique that I feel like I can spot it a mile away. I especially love his film work. It is so good. And I love on his website, when you get on it, he describes his work as if Wes Anderson shot weddings, which is so perfect. It totally matches that. And he has founded Strange Atlas with a lot of creative tips and resources for photographers. Oli will be talking to us about curation and vision. He has such a unique perspective on how he presents his work. And it's going to be so interesting listening and seeing how he showcases his work. Last but not least, we've got Dylan. Dylan, please feel free to turn on your camera. Dylan is one of Portland's top wedding photographers. He moved from Idaho in order to be closer to nature of the Pacific Northwest. Who wouldn't do that? He loves being near the ocean and being surrounded by interesting and artistic people. Dylan is very, very well versed in SEO, and that's what he's going to be talking to us about today. Organic traffic from Google is how he books more than half of his weddings in Portland, in places like Big Sur and Yosemite. We are so lucky to have him today, and I'm so excited about all the panels. I hope everyone is just tune in till the end. Like I said, we're gonna have a replay, so take the notes and you can watch it over and over again. Good. So Amir, we're gonna get started with you with a couple of questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Awesome. So it's pretty easy. We just want to know, why has Pic-Time integrated blogging capabilities into the platform?
The blogging capability is part of the broader vision for us, is helping photographers leverage their photos in every possible online channel to the best impact of their business. So the idea is that in the system, you upload the photos and then you can repurpose that and use that to the best business impact. And we found blogging to be a very important part. I have to say, at the beginning, it wasn't on our radar. For me, I'm not coming for photography, here it comes, and blogging was more text type of thing. And then I started to realize how important is it for photographers to use the photo blogs as part of the general workflow or the ongoing workflow. And we decided to jump into that, to this channel, to this area as well. And I think the main thing that we saw is that a lot of photographers that do realize the importance of it don't do it. Most of the people we interviewed said in the last 12 to 18 months they didn't blog at all. Some people even more than that. And so the website was kind of outdated, and the important focus we had building this platform was around making it easy to create and to share. So it will be easy to create, so people will do it. So it's easy selection, editing, and then helping you share the blogs in every possible channel, social, and of course websites as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm sure, like, even for photographers who know the benefits of blogging, there's always this friction of actually getting it done, right? And that's where Pic-Time is really coming in to make that seamless for us within our workflow. And as click of a few buttons, that the layout is there, everything is ready to go. Easy and speed is what Pic-Time is offering us.
That's what we try to achieve. Yes.
That's amazing. So can you kind of mention like the key features that you have?
So it goes from the creation workflow, the selection. You can start from like the thing we're trying to pitch, that also already in your Lightroom, in your editing, you'll start the photos you want to use in the blogs or in the slideshow. It is picked up by Pic-Time, and then it's easy to select them and then add them to the blog. The automation of editing, we have we have three, we're adding now another one tomorrow, different algorithms for different styles that it will automatically design the photos for you. So it's very quickly you're getting the full design. Beyond that, there's some adjustments that you can make, but also special adjustments for mobile. So the mobile experience can be also, we worked a lot about the blog, how they look on desktop, and some adjustments for them for mobile. So this is another major thing that we took into account. There is the ability, and then there's the SEO. We worked a lot with Dylan and with the beta group on optimizing the SEO features around the blog. I don't want to get into the details, but this is also a major thing. And the social sharing. So how to make it easy, not only to embed it into your website, but also share it online with social media and so on. So
yeah, especially Pinterest, which is huge for getting eyes on our business. So we're going to get more into that later on, but all of these features, tell me, how much is it going to cost photographers to actually get it?
So it is part of the concept in Pic-Time is the Pic-Time Complete. So basically it's a package and everything goes in. So if you are in the Pic-Time Complete, there's no additional cost for that.
Yeah. So once you're in the advanced plans, it's all part of it.
Yeah.
The same way you can use slideshows and stuff. That's incredible. Love that you've done it that way. That's so good. So I have a question that we're going to go term by term in the group, where we're going to start with Erika right now. And the question is, what does blogging mean to you, and what kind of impact has it had on your business? How has it helped your business? So Erika, take it away.
All right. Well, we've blogged every single wedding that we've ever shot. And we feel like it's a really important part of our business of basically attracting future clients. It's a fancy word for marketing, but I like to use the analogy of thinking of a musical artist. The really good musical artists put out albums, right? They don't just put out one-hit wonders. Instagram, Pinterest, and our website portfolio, they're great for those one-hit wonders, but the blog is there to give our future clients a full experience, much like an album does, or much like reading a book does, right? A single chapter or a single photo can only achieve so much. But by blogging every single wedding, we can really tell the story of that wedding and leave the people who have taken the time to go through our blog with a feeling, right? A feeling that they're excited about, or just a feeling that they can't necessarily even define, but are, being able to show a series of images that tells a story is so much more impactful, especially for clients that are considering hiring us, than one photo.
That's so good. So Oli, take it away. What has blogging done for your business, and what does it mean to you?
Blogging for me has been it's easy to think about websites as being a little bit old hat as all of these new platforms come in and whatnot. It's been a really great place to actually give my future clients a bit of trust and credit for them exploring and finding what they want. And, building that desire in the background, and then finding out later on that all of this effort that I didn't realize I was building into carving out a niche and really zeroing in on these people who love a certain type of thing, we're finding that in all of the hours that I put into blogs. So yeah, it's been a place to, long form comes in, short form storytelling come in. It's been a really great place to have a home for the long form stuff, and then find out that that's what clients have been deep diving in and spending hours pouring through. So yeah, blogging's been huge for me in finding that niche.
Incredible. Dylan, your turn. How has blogging helped your business?
Totally. I think it's similar to the previous answers, but it's my main marketing channel. I think you had the stat that over 50% of my weddings come from blogging, and I think now it's like 85 or 90, because I just don't post on social media much anymore. I have blog posts from my career, and I nurture them, and it's pretty minimal marketing for me, but it works, and I get 25 or 30,000 clicks a year to those blog posts, and it books me. So it's also a way to build authority, show expertise, and it's, like I said, just somewhat minimal ongoing effort.
Totally. I have to really say, what you're saying resonates with me, because most of my weddings also come through SEO and blogging. We show up really good on Google, and word of mouth as well is what works. But I am also a huge proponent of blogging. So that's perfect. That's a good way to get us started. And now,
1 second, I want to add a few things, maybe to augment on what was said, and also things that we captured from the different research we did. I think there's additional advantages for blogs. So it is kind of something that is connected with you very strong if you do right SEO, and it is available. It's like your curated business card, online business card. On the social, usually things get cluttered. You cannot identify a few different types of photography or categories. It's a collection of photos that is usually a single collection. And here you can create a much more organized presentation of yourself. The second thing is, I think that social is great because it also exposes you to a lot of people, but it usually does not lead to a conversion. Somebody needs to see that and then needs to do another active thing to go into your website, to search for you. And if somebody gets to your blog, they see things and it's part of your whole website. It's part of, or the blog itself can have a conversion parts. And it's something that helps you convert the interest in a better way to an action with your photographer. So I think these are also important things that we saw that help. Another thing that I think it leads to the SEO, when you have a blog, you have the captive audience, right? If it's a blog of not from multiple galleries, but for a specific gallery, you have captive audience that will come to see the blog on your site. So basically you have traffic coming to the site from captive audience, and this kind of helps you with the ranking and with the traffic. So prospective clients will be more, it will be more visible for them as well. So it's kind of an interesting way to use your captive audience in order to get to the prospective clients.
That's absolutely true. And we're going to be digging into how you can really leverage SEO later on with Dylan, which is going to be incredible. But we're going to start it off with Erika. So I'm going to ask the rest of the panelists to just turn off their cameras. We'll come back to you. Thank you so much. And we're going to go into a deep dive with Erika when it comes to workflows and delivery, overall client experience when it comes to blogging. So Erika, let me just start off by saying, I just love your work. You're incredible. And I was super inspired a few years ago when I saw you in Way Up North and how you do your party photos and everything. And I went back to visit your website and it's just really engaging. Love just how you even blog your work. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Plus one here. Also, I saw you're doing kind of presentation of how to organize the shooting. I saw you in one on a conference where you lecture of how to organize the shot, and it was very, very interesting.
Oh, awesome.
And there's another thing, Erika, you're the one who started the snowball for Pic-Time for the blog. So
that's right.
With you kind of pushed us.
Yeah, that's right. Because we were teaching a little webinar on our workflow. So that's sort of an important thing to know about our workflow, is that we don't start working on the next wedding until we've blogged the previous wedding, because what we found is it always gets put back burner. And Aida, you had just chatted about this earlier, how photographers never get to it, right? Because it's just, it gets put back burner because it's not a priority. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, but it's such an integral part of not just our workflow, but our client experience. So the first thing that we ever deliver to our clients is the slideshow. And of course, Pic-Time has that awesome slideshow feature now as well. We feel like that's the most impactful way that we can deliver the photos to the clients. And we actually, this has nothing to do with Pic-Time, but this is just a side little thing that we do that's really fun, is we send our clients a bottle of wine and they have to text us a picture of themselves together with wine in their glass before we'll send them the slideshow, because we don't want them experiencing the slideshow on their phone, in their cubicle, in their office by themselves. We want to create a whole experience around it. All right, so the first thing that we send them is the slideshow. And really what we're doing with this process is delivering their wedding images in an impactful way, and B, training them to fall in love with the same photos that we love, right? Because we're going to have our favorite photos from their wedding day, and it's usually anywhere from 50 to 100. So we put those in the slideshow. The slideshow is 100% for the clients, right? It's got pictures of the bridal party. It's got pictures that will never, ever make our blog post, but the slideshow is 100% for the clients. And then the blog post is 100% for our future clients. And that's a really important distinction, because those are two very different things. Because what's going to resonate with our current clients isn't necessarily going to resonate with our future clients. So the blog is a really pared down version of what's in their slideshow. And we release the blog usually the day after we give them their slideshow. So they get their slideshow and then they get their blog. Well, they don't get their blog, we blog, and then they get their full gallery. And the reason we do it in this order is because we'd much rather them share our blog post as opposed to going through the gallery and picking photos that really are great for their delivery, but not really great in terms of a great representation of our photography. We want them to share our favorite photos. And by blogging before we deliver the full gallery, they're much more likely to share the blog, which is why we do it that way.
Wow. And how much time is between the wedding and you sending over the slideshow and the blog? Like, what's that gap?
It's about 12 weeks,
Wow.
sometimes a little longer. It depends how backlogged we are.
Okay, so literally you're
So
sending.
we like it to be, you know, even if we could deliver faster, we can't. We are like, don't learn post-wedding workflow from us, because we will slow you down, because we have these incredibly high standards and they're not necessarily based on efficiency all the time. But we found that 12-week mark is really a sweet spot, because it's all a blur in their mind by the time they get their slideshow. And so they get to relive the experience all over again. Also, you know how it is, right? You miss all kinds of shots on a wedding day, like all kinds of shots you miss. And if you wait 12 weeks, very rarely do you get the couple asking you, oh, where's that photo of my aunt that you took during the reception? Or where's that one portrait that you took of us under the tree? Like, often we don't, we don't include any of the shots that don't work out. And by the 12-week mark, they've all forgotten about them anyway. So yeah.
I hear you. Yeah, and it makes sense, because by the time 12 weeks have passed, you've already got everything lined up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
at that point, it's slideshow, it's the blog post, it's the final gallery.
Yeah. In that order.
But do they get any kind of sneak peeks before the 12 weeks, or they're just?
Yeah, we try and get them, 3 or 4 as soon as possible. Our goal is like within a week, but usually it's within 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason we take so long is because we realize, like, the impact of the photos that they see from their wedding, it really, they're powerful, right? They can change their memories from the day, right? They do. Like, there's been studies that have shown that the photos that you see change your memories. And so we take it very seriously. And so we want the first photos that they see to enhance their memories.
That's such a good way of thinking about it, because my workflow definitely looks different. We won't get into that, but it's good to hear how you do it. And once you have the blog post, do you send it to the clients as well and say, hey, share this? Do you encourage them? How do you get your work out there? Because that's what you're trying to achieve with that blog post.
Yeah. We don't ask our clients to really share it. We just usually send them a text and say something along the lines of, mind if we make you famous today? And they'll be like, what do you mean? We'll say, we're gonna blog your wedding. Is that okay? And usually they're fine with it. Not many of them really share it, but we just share it through our channels.
And will you share it also on social media and so on?
Yeah. Social media, Instagram, which, is a completely different game than it was 10 years ago. Like 10 years ago, we'd share a blog post and it would get, 11,000 views. Now, now we're lucky if we get like 30, depending on where we're posting it and all that sort of stuff. But really, I view social media, like, again, as like those one-hit wonders. Like, it's just a funnel to get people into our blog, because the people that are going to hire us are going to do that deep dive into the blog posts, and they're going to see the consistency. They're going to see that each wedding has a different feeling. We're really picky about what we show on our blog and making sure that it matches our values. Like, for example, you'll never see me ever post a dress shot on our blog, like a detail shot of a dress. Just because, even though we sometimes take them, and even though we sometimes take ones that we're proud of, I don't want clients that value details over moments. So we're very intentional about what we post, and make sure it's in line with the values that we want our clients to have.
And when you post, so text and so on, what's your approach for that?
For the text?
Yeah.
Our approach is the same as the photos, which is to leave people with a feeling like we don't take into account SEO, but we've got a little bit of a different market because we only shoot 10 weddings a year, and most of the weddings that we shoot are actually wedding photographers' weddings. So it's a little bit of a different market in terms of where our clients come from. And most of them don't come through SEO. Most of them come through word of mouth. So the text is just whatever we can come up with from the heart. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically you have that kind of blog, which would be kind of your portfolio work. You won't differentiate between two different things because everyone goes about it differently according to the business and what they're trying to achieve. So I think that's part of why we want to also present different photographers here to show you there's no one way of doing things.
No, yeah, definitely not. No, but it is, you're right. It's a very curated selection of our portfolio work. And I always tell people, like, you can tell how badly Lanny and I shot the bed at a wedding based on the blog post and how many photos are in there, because the photos have to meet a certain standard to get on our blog. And, you know, if we've killed the wedding and we did really well, it might be like 50 to 100 photos. If it's like 20 photos, you can say, oh, really? They probably didn't do very well in that wedding.
You know, I think it's kind of tricky actually when you are in business with your partner because you don't necessarily agree on every image, right? Like
That's
me and
true,
my
yeah.
husband, like, you know, he would take something to a blog post and I'm like, why would you do that? Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. And then there's a little bit of bickering happening sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And I just let him be. So actually with us, what ended up happening is I have, you know, websites where I'm like, I'm in charge of this website, do not touch it.
Right.
And he's in charge of another one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we run into that problem a lot, but I usually just muscle my way to that. I usually win. I've usually got really good reasons why we shouldn't put it on. I can usually convince him. I'm the more strong-headed one in some ways. So.
To be. And which social channels do you feel like are the most impactful in this day and age right now? You know, times have changed with the algorithms and stuff, even though you're mostly like your clientele are wedding photographers, but where do you see it working best? Promoting on Instagram or elsewhere? How does that work for you in your workflow?
I'm not seeing social channels working well at all especially when we post it with the link.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer to that. Honestly, we're trying to hire someone right now to take over our social media because none of them are working the way they used to for us.
Yeah, that's something a lot of people are struggling with. I have a question here that has come through for you. Erika, have you ever had a problem from clients complaining that you blogged before delivering the actual gallery?
No. And usually what I'll say, this is obviously not the case anymore, but a couple of years ago it was like, I just say your full gallery is currently being uploaded. It'll be uploaded within the next 12 hours. It'll be ready for you tomorrow morning. In the meantime, we've blogged your wedding. I usually tell them that the upload's just taking a little bit longer because there's so many photos and they're all high res.
Yeah. And
that's no longer an issue with internet speeds and stuff, but it was 5 years ago. It was the truth 5 years ago. So
and the sneak peeks that you actually deliver, are you using Pic-Time and you're sending them a Pic-Time link for that, or do you do it in a different way?
No, I usually just, actually I send them a print of the sneak peeks. And I usually just email them. But I will say another way that we optimize our Pic-Time gallery is because, again, like I said, we're really trying to train our clients to love the same photos that we love. So there's the slideshow, first of all, then there's the blog, then they're seeing all those photos again. And then when they do get their full gallery, they're seeing all the artisan edits front loaded in the gallery. Right. So those are the ones that were in the slideshow and the ones that were on the blog. They're front loaded their gallery. So again, it's being reinforced again that these are the best photos from your wedding. And then all the other ones are sequential underneath the artisan edits.
Yeah, I see the system behind it. And do you have clients who are ordering also albums? Is that something you would do? Like, even if they want an album, that you're trying to get those images in there?
Yeah, exactly. It's so that, well, they are the best photos from their wedding. And Glenn and I know, because we've got an eye, right? They've hired us and we're the photographers and we're the experts. And B, it's going to save us work down the line, right? So when I do design their album, I've already trained them to fall in love with the same photos that we have. And so it means less editing work later.
That makes a lot of sense. So like in general, in terms of marketing, the overall strategy for your business, how do you feel like that's working? Is it just the fact that you're reinforcing your style of photography and really trying to attract those type of clients to you?
Yeah, exactly. And trying to attract clients that value the same things as us. Our marketing plan for the past 12 years has been the same, which is to make better work. That's it. That's literally our marketing plan. And that's all we've ever done. And it's worked for us up until this point. Like, I don't know if it's going to work for us in the future. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We might have to start putting a little bit more effort into SEO and into social media campaigns and stuff like that. But so far, our marketing plan is simple: make better work and show it to the world. Make better. Yeah. And Pic-Time has been really instrumental in showing it to the world in a very aesthetic way. And the blog is so important for that. Right? Because when people are viewing the photos on Instagram, they're so much less impactful than they are on our blogs. Right? Because we can go big and loud and proud, and we can figure out the order, and we can have close shots and then far shots and then black and white shots. Like, we can keep the viewer interested and keep scrolling, versus an algorithm deciding that for us, which isn't always great.
Okay, I think we'll move now to Oli, right?
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Erika, thank you so much. That was really insightful. Cool. Oli, thank you for coming back on.
So for everyone, it's 3 a.m. for Oli, so
Yeah.
4
a.m.
You get your coffee, Oli.
Mate, way ahead of you. We're juggling over here. Don't you worry.
I have mad respect for you. So good. So we're still gonna do a deep dive, Oli, so get ready. Yeah. So what I'm so curious about is, when I look at your work on your website, I know that you've really taken the time to choose the images. They're so well curated. Can you talk about what kind of criteria you have for yourself to select images that you think are worthy of going up onto your website?
It's really tough, because you're always only meeting people when they're this far into their own journey of understanding photography or having their own visual vocabulary. So there's this like scattergun of different levels you kind of have to hit. I have to hit people who are looking for something with, a little more joy in it, or people who want to see how their family and their kids are represented, versus people who just want to see something moody. So my challenge as a curator is to go, how can I serve all of these while still honoring the fact that I don't really have quite the tenacity of Erika there. Like, I don't blog every single wedding, and I've been trying to produce a new website for the last 3 years. So I'm really behind on blogging. So I have to go, within the boundaries of what I can do, how can I serve those things? How can I have something there that I feel okay with maybe changing really infrequently? I don't know if that kind of answers your question, but yeah, for me, I'm trying to go, particularly here in Australia too, because the market is quite different, even quite a fair bit smaller, I think, than much of the Northern Hemisphere. So I feel a compulsion to go a little bit wider in attracting people, just to make sure I catch as many as I can. So that's kind of been my approach.
Funny you said that because it doesn't feel that way. For me, when I look at your work, it feels more specific, but I think it's just how you view it. Like it's all these things is also quite subjective at the end of the day. But I can see that you have a unique perspective, a point of view that in your work, and it comes across, and I'm sure it speaks to a certain type of person is how
Exactly, yeah. And it's so interesting you say that because like, and I suppose we'll go into all of this stuff, but you know, I've got a specific Pic-Time gallery just with guest photos. So when I get that question from a couple going, hey, you know, you find out afterwards they've only looked at maybe a fraction of your site or maybe a fraction of your social media presence. And they might have a question like, you know, I literally get this one, you know, probably more often than other ones, even though I display quite a lot of guest photos and photos of more abstracted things. And they want to see more of that. And I've got a, you know, preloaded Pic-Time gallery and I can just like swing that pitch and lob that ball at them, you know. But it's so right though, like the way that I shoot a pair of shoes or something is through the same proverbial lens as how I shoot a couple, you know. So hopefully there's consistency in that.
When you select the photos, do you already take into account how they will play like with the design, or you select and then you try to figure out how to match them on the design together?
It's pretty musical, and my answer to that is always like I'm a huge music fan, and that's informed, you know, our entire family's life background. And I kind of think of it musically. I'm like, you know, if you're listening to a great song, there's actually, I love it. It's probably planted in my head because of what Erika said with the brilliant album analogy. But if I'm listening to a song, you know, how have they used negative space? How have they made me like wait for this like crescendo or whatever, or this, you know, the reward of melody 2.5 minutes in. And I think about laying out images in the same way, and it's really, really helped me lay out blog posts, establish a feeling of pace and musicality in a gallery. And I think that's really, really necessary for couples too. Like, again, we're probably already going down the path of stuff we're going to talk about, but one of the biggest parts of curation is giving people breathing room. Like if you throw at people, or if I throw at people in answer to your question, a whole lot of images where the couple is occupying 20% of the frame in every single image. And, you know, this is a challenge with social media. Like we need to give them breathing room so they're not just like hit with a scattergun of the same thing, because then their brain can't delineate between different images. So the whole role of us as a curator is to think of it musically and go, how do I make everything stand out, and how do I make it feel calm to them? So when I'm picking images, to your question, and curating them for a blog, like, again, it's about what Erika said. It's about establishing near shots and far shots. And it's also about asking the question, how can I insert texture and have something abstract? Can I create a pairing between color? Can I create a relationship that wasn't there to them on the day, but I can create by showing an image with a red accent on someone's top versus a red flower? That might sound cheesy, but you find out they're the exact same tools that gallerists and, you know, artists in other spheres are using. They're creating relationships. They're creating their own language around diptychs and triptychs. They're telling stories, not just using chronology, not just using, hey, the couple got ready, then they had this, then that. They're telling stories using other elements of photographic storytelling, which I think is where a lot of the interesting stuff happens with curation.
So for you, how does you doing also slideshows, right?
Yeah, I do a Pic-Time slideshow for every couple.
So how does that work? So for Erika said, slideshows are for the clients, blogs are for the prospective clients. So do you see, for you, is it connected? Like, will you put the slideshow as part of the blog, or it's?
It should be connected. I feel like I'm doing it crap and wrong now after I heard that. I'm like, that's brilliant. I think, yeah, I feel like I need to get them done quick. So for me, I don't spend long on slideshows. Like I'm, again, very musical, very feel-based in how I'm going through it. Like, so for the next day after their wedding, they receive about 100, you know, edited images, and all of those will make the slideshow, and then I'll tend to add maybe 100 more into the slideshow, maybe a week or two later. But it's very impulsive. It's like, am I telling a chronological story? So are they receiving the play-by-play of the things that happened? And am I inserting those moments where, you know, I'm putting in my favorite things? Again, Erika put it brilliantly. Like, am I training them to come up to my vocabulary?
Oli, do you have like some practical tips that you can give photographers in terms of like keeping a blog post engaging? Because at the end of the day, when we're blogging weddings of clients we already shot, but we're blogging for our prospective clients, right? And for these people, they don't know who they are. So there needs to be a way to get them really engaged. And one of the things, like you said, we don't necessarily have to do the storytelling style in terms of chronological order to just keep it kind of interesting. Are there just one or two things you can give us to take away that we can actually implement in terms of how to make it more interesting in a sense?
Yes, great question. If I had to narrow it down to one, I would say treat your potential couples with respect. And what I mean by that is give them the respect that they will be able to like identify good things, that they will have good taste. And what that should result in is not feeling like you've got to cram stuff in there that shouldn't be in there just to, you know, throw hundreds and hundreds of images in there, right? Like, let them, give them the benefit of the doubt. And the flow on effect from that should be that your blog post breathes better. Like, I think that's what we need more than anything else. They're being hit with so much content. They're seeing so much stuff. A really beautifully curated blog post, I think, is an opportunity to give them a little bit of pause and feel something and slowly establish a relationship between things, using your amazing skills as a photographer to curate that. So slow down might be the answer to that.
Yeah, I have a question. Oh, Amir, I was just going to say.
Yeah, no, I was just wanted to read the question from the Q&A, so you can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, it's from the Q&A. Someone's asking, do you use templates or outlines or certain topics on each blog to make it easier to do? Or what is your method of what to say with each blog?
So I have two ways that I've historically done blogging. One is I did a massive SEO strategy. So all of the blog posts in that were created to target a search term. And the second one is the one that I've been talking about, where they're highly curated. They're blog posts of kids, they're blog posts of mood, they're blog posts of guests, that sort of thing. With the first one, with the SEO one, if we're talking specifically to the idea of writing and how we use words to bring people in, that's super important to me. AI is taking over now. People are going to be using ChatGPT, all that stuff more and more. People are going to start identifying the patterns, and people that input terms into these things might not be able to create these dynamic relationships that you can as an artist, if you are just stepping back and going, hey, I can sprinkle some funny analogies in here or weird things that make someone stop and go, what the hell was that? And you can look at publications in music where you've got, really enthusiastic entry music journalists. And historically, they write in such an interesting, dramatic, melodic, engaging way. And so there's so many things outside of our industry, I think, that we can take from. So when I'm writing blog posts, to bring that back into an answer, I want to give them funny analogies. So I did a blog post on 10 venues, and one of the venues in there, if you can excuse this terrible analogy, like its history was as a live music venue. Now it's a wedding venue. So in my head, I'm like, there's all of these analogies around what happens in old music videos. It's like beer, it smells like a urinal. There's like beer and piss in the carpets. It's terrible, right? But you can you can tie those two worlds together. And I think if you're writing, like, make it interesting. Trust that your couples can withstand some polarity and take a few risks with writing, I think.
That's golden. really, really golden. Thank you so much, Oli. We're gonna move on to Dylan right now, but we'll get you back on later on. Dylan,
Awesome.
we'll love for you to turn on your camera and join us.
Cool. It says the host has stopped it. So
Oh, we keep having that problem today. So we'll see if someone can figure that out. Oh, there you are.
cool. Oh, almost. There we go. Sweet.
Yeah.
I clicked too many times.
Fantastic. Dylan, SEO for most photographers seems daunting, but yet it's so important. And I'm sure there are a lot of people on this webinar who are on the edge of their seats trying to finally figure it out. And we're so glad you're here to bring light to this dark world of
Totally.
search
I'm glad I
engine
can help.
optimization.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Dylan, so let's just get started by saying, like, when photographers are blogging, like, what are the most key things that they want to pay attention to when it comes to SEO? Like, what are the must-haves?
Totally. So in my experience, wedding photographers and portrait photographers, they really should concentrate on topics that are going to be helpful for their potential clients. That's where you generally see the biggest bang for the buck. And so I can kind of show a little bit like what I like to include in a blog post to be helpful for those potential clients. And Pic-Time's made it really easy to format that properly and then embed it on practically any platform. And then for me personally, I have a huge backlog. I think Oli mentioned this as well. I haven't blogged like 90% of my weddings because I feel like I'm too busy and I have a very scattered image backup workflow. So for me to access like images from a wedding that I shot even like 3 or 4 years ago is just effort that I don't have. And so it's been really amazing with Pic-Time to just go grab my galleries and throw a blog post together in like 15 or 20 minutes or less. So yeah, I can kind of show a little bit of that process later.
Yes, please do, because that visual is going to help us all out.
Cool. Yeah, let me share my screen if that's possible. Okay, so here is a wedding that is an example that I made targeting a specific wedding venue, which is called Iron Light. And I just grabbed photos from a gallery. On this, I was testing using WordPress words for the first paragraph. That's not necessarily something you have to do. You can just use the Pic-Time blogging tool. And I can show the back end of this. Let me get to the right one. There we go. Cool. Awesome. So like I said, this one, it didn't have the title or the first paragraph. My other blog posts, I have been using the Pic-Time editor for that. What I wanted to show was this little section at the bottom where I put in venue information. And this is like my little SEO, like sneak peek, or not sneak peek, my little tactic for ranking well for venues. So I did a Google search for Iron Light, the venue, and I saw that people were typically looking for information about cost and reviews and if there was parking, like how to get there. People are typically looking for like how many people fit at a specific venue, or to hear experiences about people that have had events there or worked on events there. So I added this section that has Iron Light venue information and then their address, with their parking situation, a link to their Google reviews, and then how many guests fit. And that was a link to their pricing page. And then Pic-Time also has this built-in vendors section where you can link to all the vendors that help put on the event, which is also something that I always recommend. A, it's showing local relevance to these other local small businesses. And B, it's a good way to network with other vendors in your area and spread some goodwill. Send them some site traffic, send them some referrals, give them a little bit of that backlink juice that SEO people love to talk about. And whenever I share weddings and I've linked to vendors, they're much more likely to share it on their blog or put it on their social media. So it's a win-win.
Are you, so just one question, because that was very interesting, the strategy of defining for the text. So basically you're taking, let's say, the venue. I don't know if there's another vendor that has a high profile or search. You're doing a Google research on them. What are the keywords that people are searching in order to get to them? And you're trying to embed that into the text.
Exactly. And that's a free way to do keyword research. I can show another example. Let's do, I guess, Legion of Honor. So like I said, you can do, wow, I rank high for that. The related searches is always one way. Another fun is to look at the images and look at these bubbles at the top. And those can be other subtopics that you can include in your blog post. So people might be looking for pre-wedding or engagements at that location, elopements, the reception, the fact that it's a museum, etc. And then you can also look at the image results and say, these are the images that Google thinks are interesting. I should include these. Or if I'm working on my alt text or my image file names, those are the images I should concentrate on. And if you do a lot of wedding venue searches, you'll see that this type of wide angle ceremony or reception shot with just the chairs and nobody in it is always going to be ranking in the top few images. So include those photos.
I totally have to second that.
So just a second. So you're saying the alt text, you're not doing the alt text for all the photos, you're doing the alt text only on photos with characteristics that you see will pop up with searches like that. So
exactly.
do you have, let's say, so you say, do you have another rule of thumb, which ones to select?
Totally. Let me look in the back end here. So if we go to the SEO section of a Pic-Time blog and go to setup SEO, this one I don't think I went through and did many, but for the typical wedding blog post, I'll probably do less than 10. Between 5 and 10 images with alt text and custom file names, and the rest I'll just leave standard and let them do whatever. Google's typically only going to index maybe 10 to 15 images from a certain blog post, but they're only going to show maybe 5 in the search results in the top few hundred images. So it's kind of a waste of effort to go through and do alt text for like 200 photos in a blog post or something. Past that, it's also like not the best for accessibility. If somebody's using a screen reader and like there's 200 photos with different descriptions and they have to try to make their way through that, it's a mess. So I like to pick the most relevant, the most unique, and the most likely to show up in search, or my favorites.
Can you just take 1 second for people who have no idea what it means to have alt text, a text and a file image, like to differentiate those two? It might be really helpful for some people watching.
Totally. So the two easy image SEO variables that you have to kind of optimize are the image file name. So whatever it is, .jpeg. So in this image, when I exported it to deliver it, it was just the couple's names and a number. That's not very optimized for what is actually in the image. Pic-Time makes it easy where you can set the alt text. So in this, I might just do a brief description, maybe up to 15 words, but probably like 5 or 10. And I'll just say groom getting ready for wedding in Portland, Oregon. And then you can hit auto rename files and it adds that with dashes for spaces, which is perfect as the image file name. So now that is good to go. And like I said, I'll probably do that for 5 to 10 images in a particular blog post.
That makes so much sense. And so going back to like ranking for a keyword, can you explain how photographers can do that like in the best way possible? Like should each blog post they make be optimized for a certain topic? Like, is it possible that, you know, their own blog posts can compete against each other?
Yeah, that's a good question. I see it all the time. You should typically have just one page on your website that tries to rank for any specific topic. And so you kind of need to map that out and make an overall plan. So for like my homepage, I'm trying to rank for Portland wedding photographer.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be optimizing any other pages on my site for that. And when I say optimizing, I'm saying like included in the page title or the main content or the URL slug. So for blog posts, it's important. With photographers, they often shoot multiple times at the same venue. So if I've shot 17 weddings at Union Pine wedding venue in Portland, Oregon, I need to be very careful with how I blog the wedding number 2 through 17, if that makes sense.
What's your advice in that case? Like, for example, on my website, I have 2 weddings that I'm showcasing at one of my favorite venues. And I feel like I want to show up with both weddings. And actually, I have optimized both of them in the same way, which I probably shot myself in the foot. What can I do to get out of it or do it better next time?
Totally. So I like to make a page or a post for that wedding venue that I like to just go more in depth. So I might just show more information about planning the wedding there, or all of the experience you have from shooting there multiple times and showing examples from those multiple weddings. And then if you have the time, you can blog all of the weddings after that, and just don't optimize them for the venue name, but you can link from that main page for that wedding venue. So you can show the examples of all of that work, especially if it's like different seasons, different style, and things like different size events, etc. So it's very useful for people planning a wedding at that venue or in that location, but they won't compete with each other as much.
That's super smart. Okay, so we have a couple of questions that have come through for you, Dylan. I'm going to read them out. So number 1 is, I'm a family photographer and want to blog, but I don't have any vendors to write about. Any good ideas for family photographers? Totally.
So vendors, you don't have to do as much, but there's so many topics that are useful for family photographers, like boutiques for clothes, like children's boutiques in their town, parks in their town, family events, restaurants for families, things like that. Any information that you can think of for families, young families, etc., can be helpful. For specific sessions, I typically talk about themes for the session, areas for the session, anything like that. But family photographers, I really like to do informational blog posts.
That's interesting. So like photographers need to actually step back and think beyond photography and see what are parents actually looking for in Google and probably in the local markets. And then they kind of come across your website in that way, like through the back door.
Exactly. Yeah, it can be really, really successful.
That's so good.
I have a question, because the text that you're talking about is really coming from the angle of how do I make it visible for people on Google, but not so much about the storytelling, right? You don't put a storytelling type of text into the photo. So it's photo, net amount of photos, and the rest is just how to bring people into the blog.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of my laziness. A lot of my older blog posts, I would spend more time talking about the wedding itself. And that can be useful. It can be great for the people that were actually at the wedding. It can be meaningful to them. But for the general public that comes to my blog, they don't know that couple. They don't really care about the story as much, potentially. Sometimes it's nice to just show that you do connect with your clients and that there was like some meaningful emotional connection there. And so it's okay to show that. But from an SEO perspective, I care much more about any information that's going to be useful for that potential client.
Cool. So we have a second question for you, Dylan. Someone's asking, do you feel like SEO rules change less than algorithms on social media?
Yeah. For me, SEO doesn't change much. Like I feel like that's kind of it's true that the algorithms are changing daily or hourly on Google as well as social media. But the goal of specifically like Google's algorithms or search engines in general is just to return the most useful result for the searcher. So as long as you're kind of taking that as your like end goal for your content, you don't have to think much about algorithm changes unless you like directly get harmed by it, which is very rare for photographers.
That's so true. Yeah. So once you actually understand the goal of it, and you're serving that goal, you're in a good place. So it's really about writing the best type of content that you can. And like, there's another question just for more elaboration on alt tags, about good alt tags. Can you go back into that?
Totally. So I have, let me find it here.
Yeah, by using an example would be super useful.
Totally.
Thank you.
I can just show an example. I have a blog post on fuelyourphotos.com. If you just search alt text guide for photographers, and it has like 30 or 40 real other photographers' photos where we just did 3 different levels of alt text, like a good acceptable alt text, what we would normally do, which we called like better, and then optimized, which is just going really hard towards SEO optimization, but less towards actually describing the photo. But for an example, I can show, let's see, trying to find a good photo.
That's good. Take it.
Here's one. So I will do wedding portrait. And I'm trying to remember the name of this hotel. I think it's the, gosh, what was that? I'll just put hotel name.
That's fine.
So even something that simple, just wedding portrait at hotel in Portland. So if anybody ever Googles like, is this hotel great for getting ready or great for portraits, or should I book this hotel for my wedding? This is likely to show up. This is a park.
Fancy, right? It's just really to use words that people are searching for, to be clear and precise with those words that you use.
And I guess I should also emphasize that alt text and file names, while they are a signal that are used in image search, the most important optimizations are going to be the actual content of the blog post. So the title of your blog post, the overall topic, Google's going to associate those images with that much more than anything you put in alt text or image file name.
Talking about titles, I know a lot of people struggle understanding headers, right? We've got the H1, H2, H3.
Totally.
Can you put that in the most simple of terms for people to actually start using it correctly?
Yeah, I think one thing I really like about Pic-Time blogging is that you don't have to know about headings to have them like properly set up in your post, because they're kind of hidden. They're just built into the blocks. So as you build out your content, it has an optimal heading structure already. In general, headings are supposed to be almost like the table of contents or an outline for your content. It should tell Google and users, here's the overall topic, these are the subtopics, these are the nested topics below those, etc. And it shows relative importance of the content and what the overall content's about. And so for example, I use a Chrome extension called Headings Map, but it's not going to show the headings that are in Pic-Time or any other similar tool. But my H1 is Mint Barrel Barn Wedding and the name of the couple. And so it's just going to be structured like that. If you want to check and make sure that your headings are showing up for Google, you can use what's called the rich results test. And you put in your URL here and you hit enter and you hit view tested page. And then if you're like super nerdy, you look through the HTML and you can hit the little magnifying glass and you can start typing like H2, like do my H2s show up? And you can actually go through the content and find them. So like Iron Light venue information, we looked at that earlier. That's in an H2 heading, which is great. You can also check and make sure that your alt text is showing up by simply typing alt. And you can see that bridal portraits in Lake Oswego, that's one that we looked at. It's showing up there as well.
Yeah, so it's really about using those keywords that you want to show up for. But like one thing I know photographers feel like, okay, if you have a popular local market that you're trying to target, right? So, and a bunch of photographers in the same area are using the similar titles, how can you stand out still being SEO optimized? Like, do you have any advice? Not that everybody's like, yeah, wedding, you know, at the same venue name, and then all the search results look more or less the same.
Totally. So there are a few ways. I think what I showed earlier with just content to include that's helpful will really show Google relevance. Just doing that alone can help you kind of stand above the crowd that's just saying, here's a wedding from this venue. Here's some text blurb about the couple, and here's 100 photos. Google kind of wants to see more than that. And it's a way to easily just add a little bit more relevant content and stand out. The other way is like as old as SEO is just building up your own website's authority. So getting featured, getting backlinks to your site, showing that you're an expert on a subject is key. So maybe getting guest posts on sites and talking about weddings or whatever your specialty is. Getting links from local sites. So if you work with vendors, or if you're a family photographer, you work with makeup artists or like local kids clothing stores, etc. Give them photos and ask for a link in return. Things like that will really boost your SEO and help you outrank your local competition.
Absolutely. So domain authority, those are two words that are so important that you should research. I mean, there are certainly more questions that people want to ask you, but we just can't get to all of them. So I'm encouraging people to explore a ton of the resources that you have available, because you teach photographers how to improve their SEO, right? You have a lot of resources available for that.
Yeah, totally.
That's so good. So that's why we're going to now move on to the next section of our webinar. Thank you so much, Dylan, for sharing your knowledge. And it's been really insightful for me, and I'm sure for everyone else here.
Of course.
Cool. So we can have the rest of the panelists join us for a little bit of a group discussion. Oli, come on back. Hopefully you haven't fallen asleep in the
Yeah.
or grabbing another cup of coffee, which is totally fine. We will have him join us soon, I'm sure. But till then, we are going to have a little bit of a discussion about a bit of, yeah, there you are, Oli. Welcome back. So good. So we talked about curation. We talked about workflow, SEO. So the question, we'll start with Erika. We did touch upon it a little bit before, but what is your focus? Is it really storytelling in your text or SEO? Just to expand a little bit and go back to that again.
Yeah, it would be storytelling, just with the text.
Yeah, with the text for your blog posts.
Yeah, storytelling. But again, if we were starting our business now as opposed to 10 years ago, it would probably be more along the lines of what Dylan was talking about, for sure.
Yeah. And earlier you mentioned that you want to bring your values through your blog posts. If you can kind of speak a little bit to what you meant by values, what are you trying to bring across?
Well, yeah, one of the things I've noticed with a lot of photographers, because we have a lot of students and we critique a lot of their blog posts, is that I notice photographers focusing on the plot of a wedding. And the plot of a wedding is the same every single time, right? The plot is they get ready, they exchange rings, they kiss. Sometimes the plot gets changed up a bit because it's an Indian wedding, or maybe it's two guys getting married and it's all exciting, but it's all just the same plot all the time. And I feel like the way you can make very interesting blog posts is by focusing more on the story instead of the plot. And that's just a really sort of important distinction to make, because the story of a wedding is completely different than the plot of a wedding.
Absolutely. And Oli, taking it to you, how are you getting people to find you? Is it SEO driven so that you are getting traffic as well, or do you want to focus more on the story?
It's split exactly down the middle. So half my inquiries come through, Instagram or my SEO strategy, and probably the other half, if not a little bit larger, is sort of long watches and folks who have immersed in those blog posts that I've put so much energy into. So it tends to be a mix of, folks that are completely new to the genre and folks that have been hanging out for a little while and looking into those posts.
Makes sense. Dylan, we know you're SEO focused, so it's a moot point asking you this question, but
Totally.
I'll move on to the next one. We did hear the word ChatGPT earlier. AI is coming in, and I think you're the right person to ask, what are your thoughts on AI in terms of, ChatGPT, how that's going to like moving forward?
It is such a good research tool, and it can really show, like, I could type that into ChatGPT, like how to plan a wedding at Iron Light Wedding Venue. And it would give me really good insights onto what questions people might ask, similar to what I got from Google. I use it in that way. I use it to outline blog posts sometimes or help with writer's block. But I want to warn people maybe against just taking ChatGPT answers and just publishing them. I was using it to help with one of the posts on my site, and it was giving me blatantly false information. Every hotel, I was asking it to summarize hotels that I wanted to write about, and it said that every single one in Portland had a rooftop bar, and it's simply not true. So just watch out for things like that. It's not perfect, and it's kind of a shortcut that I think you should just use for planning, and that's pretty much it.
So good. Erika, Oli, do you have some thoughts that you want to share? You can take it one after the other. Erika, when it comes to ChatGPT, if you have no thoughts, that's also fine.
I haven't really formulated my thoughts on it yet. I don't use it because I don't want to start using it. If you know what I mean. Like I don't want to get in the habit of it. And I've been trying to develop my writing skills over the past couple of years, and I don't know if it's going to help me with that. So, but I think if it's a distinction between I will blog if I can use ChatGPT to help me with my write-up, or I won't blog, I think, yeah, definitely the former would be the better option for you.
Amir, what are your thoughts?
I'm trying also to formulate our thought, and actually we have a research right now on integrating ChatGPT into the blog. First of all, I definitely sign off on what Dylan said. You can never just copy paste something like that. It's maybe something to give you a starting point, but you have to put something from yourself in, otherwise it is strange. However, I think that it can be used because sometimes you want to inject keywords, or like Dylan showed us things from the Google on how people are searching, which actually I wrote a few things that we will also research if we can help automate that process. But I think you can use ChatGPT in how to phrase, for example, a sentence that includes this type of information and so on. So I think it is. I think you said about writer block. Yeah, that can be. I think in that perspective, it can be a very interesting aid tool.
Oli, have you played a little bit with it?
Yeah, I've made, rap songs about my friends that are with a sprinkle of Ernest Hemingway. You can do all these really interesting things with it. The things I try and keep in mind are it's completely in its infancy. So it's nice to just keep an eye on. I think we don't know what it is doing now, it won't do in even 1 year, I think. And secondly, I think it's probably a nice thing to become familiar with just the act of generating prompts, and same with what people are doing with visual, like Mid-Journey stuff. That is going to become a skill, and that's going to lean on all of our experiences and books that we've read and music we've seen and all of that type of thing. So that's my take on it.
So good. And in terms of when writing text, I think everyone has touched up on it. The perspective that we're writing it from is really for our prospective clients. If anybody disagrees, we can get into it, but I think that's what I heard from all our conversations. So I just want to move on over to talking about how we organize blogs and the type of blogs. So we've talked about how you approach it. That's also something. And really the focus being to make it interesting for our prospective clients. And Dylan, you did share about how we can blog for vendors. Oli, I didn't hear you talk about that. Do you want to say a few words about, do you blog anything for vendors in your area that you want to work with?
Was that to myself?
Yeah, for you.
Yeah.
Like, because I didn't hear you talk anything about that. Do you write up any blog posts, or do you include vendors in your blog posts so that you can build a relationship with them? And yeah, for referrals and even just for being a good person.
Exactly, which is, yeah, that's the currency that should matter to us, right? Like we get to do this awesome creative craft with other collaborators. We should really, I think, celebrate that for sure. Historically, I'm pretty bad with it from the point of view of doing it for every wedding, but I did an SEO strategy where I thought of a whole bunch of different areas I wanted to get visibility in. So I wanted to get visibility for florists, which meant celebrating local florists and writing about their work in a way that maybe they hadn't been written about before. I hosted a night here for celebrants with a friend, and we invited a whole bunch of local celebrants over, set up a bougie headshot booth and created a post out of that. And then they got a gallery full of a Pic-Time gallery with all of those shots too. So that was a really simple exercise in connecting a few different things, SEO, Pic-Time, that was really great in, yeah, just kicking off some new relationships and fortifying old ones.
So on your website, when you, that's for any of you. So we talked about, yes, there's the blogs for prospective clients, and we talked about basically a blog per session. And now we're talking about a blog from a different angle, right? That kind of presents a vendor. Do you organize it in a specific way on the site, or it's like just the blogs one after the other? Is there kind of a hierarchy of blogs with more text directed at one objective and blogs for a different thing, or they're all the same?
If yeah, I can answer that. Mine are all sort of, they're all almost hidden. I don't have a front end portal for it. Of course, they're all linked, so Google can index them. I'm sure Dylan's way more organized than I am, but I just wanted to attack those search terms and provide some great things for those people searching for those. But I don't have a front end where I'm encouraging people to dive into that, because it's not really what I want new clients to do unless they're searching for that thing. I want new clients to fall in love with my storytelling, curation, how I see the world, and the blogging is really separate to that. For me, it's a separate problem that I'm trying to solve.
So, but from the blogs, people lead to your general story,
Yeah, I think I've done it pretty poorly at the moment, but there's always a cue to go, hey, if you need me for my wedding, and I show a little bit of my portfolio in context. So they've got all this content, tackling that search term. And afterwards, they've got something about me. I'm building a vendor PDF out here for planning in this city, and that'll be a pop-up so that all of that traffic that I'm getting on those things will be presented with this download. I get their email, and then I can, put them into a short marketing funnel from that blog.
So smart. And how many images are too many images in a blog post? I feel like that's something photographers struggle with, where we can end up with like 100 even images, which can not actually serve us well or serve clients well, potential clients coming and looking at like, how far should photographers trim their blog posts in terms of images? Take it away, whoever wants.
I can speak to that one. Yeah, just seeing all of our students' blogs, like thousands of photographers' blogs. That's probably the one thing, one big common denominator is that people show too much work, like way too much work. Like I feel like anything you show on your website and your blog should be something that's like, again, story, not plot. And often I can just tell, I can tell that they haven't been able to make a decision. So they're just like, oh, I'll put all three in, which is would be like going to an art museum and seeing all three drafts, leading up to, or it'd be like, Lanny likes to go back to the music analogy. Lanny likes to talk about, what is the What is the Michael Jackson album with Love of Your Life on it?
Oh, he has so many albums.
You know that one album? Dangerous, I think.
Okay.
No, I think it was Dangerous. There was like 70 tracks recorded for that album. And I think there was like 14 or Lanny knows the stats, 14 or 15 in the final album. And like, you've really got to think of your blog post like that album. Like they cut
the
like
best.
well over 70% of the tracks to make a really good album. And even then, they could have got rid of that duet they did with Lisa Marie Presley. Like that was the brutal stuff. But because you're only as strong as your weakest image on your blog post, in my opinion. So I don't think you can cut it too much, because if you don't show bride and dad walking down the aisle, people aren't going to say, oh, they must have missed that shot. They didn't get it. They're not going to think that. You just got to show the photos that show the unique way you see the world, that show this unique story of that wedding, not the plot, right? And so many photographers just focus on the plot, and it's just like way too long. And there's like little bits of gold in there.
Yeah.
But it's like diluted. It's so diluted that nobody actually sees the gold because there's so much filler in it.
It's a skill, and I think we just hesitate a lot, and I feel like getting another set of eyes would be helpful to get that down, but that's so good. I have a question that I think is more relevant for Dylan, and it's about like what scares a lot of photographers from blogging is like they don't feel comfortable writing a lot. And then we've been told over and over again, you have to write a certain amount. Like, what is that amount? Is it like we hear about 600 to 800 words?
Totally.
Is that true?
I don't ever think in word count at all.
Okay.
That's never my goal. So I'm always thinking, what is going to actually solve the searcher's problem? What tasks are they trying to satisfy? What answers are they trying to answer, or questions are they trying to answer? And so sometimes that can be 100 words. Like if it's a very simple question, like where is this wedding venue? That's really easy to answer. Or it could be much more in depth. If it's how to plan an elopement in Oregon, that might end up being 3,000 or 4,000 words, because there are locations and time of year and permits and all this stuff that goes into that topic. And to actually cover that topic is going to be quite long. So it's really topic dependent, and I never put a number as a goal when I'm sitting down to actually outline and write a post.
I think that's the answer we all want to hear. I'm personally very relieved. That's so good. Oli,
Awesome.
There's a question in the comments for you. Are there any good resources to read about curation, storytelling from the art world that you can recommend?
I wish I had a good answer to this, but because, and I'm not saying I'm not inspired by stuff, but like the best thing I could say to answer to that would be to like, listen to the music, think of songs that you really, really love and how they've used pace and breathing room to make you feel something. And, if in doubt, throw it out. Like, if it's not lifting up that post, it's going to be bringing it down 100%. And maybe something else helpful to think about too is, like Dylan was talking about, with your pages can fight each other in SEO and eat each other. The exact same thing happens in curation, right? So if you've got a couple of things that are fighting each other, whether it's in the way that the composition is or the complexity, if you have two complex images next to each other, they're going to be battling for that person's brain space, that precious space they have. And you want them to like hold and fall in love. So I don't really have a resource, but I would just say, like, look at it as if you're someone that wants to fall in love with something above all else, and see how that makes you change your curation decisions.
So good.
Yeah, one of the tactics I use for this is I tell myself, when you're shooting, when we're photographing, we have to be present and in the moment. And I kind of try and do the opposite when I'm editing and curating, is I take myself out, because a lot of the times I'm making the decision based on the emotion I felt in that moment, but that's me being there and it doesn't necessarily resonate with strangers. So I sort of try and do the opposite and take myself out of the moment, and just that little bit of mindset shift really helps me with making those decisions.
Basically, you're saying it's better that not you will be the one who's choosing the photos from the event.
Yeah, sometimes.
Perfect. So one of the best things about blogs with Pic-Time is we can integrate slideshows, like we talked about, GIFs for people who do GIFs, and also video, right? So I think this would be also a good question for Dylan, because I've heard that like if you integrate YouTube video links into your blog post, that is some massive SEO juice. Can you speak to that? Is there truth in it?
Yeah, so I would say it might help the post itself a little bit, but the video itself can rank very highly. Typically on the first page, if the result requires or is right for a video result, they'll show the YouTube video on the first page. Wedding venues are such an easy opportunity for that because so few photographers take the time to make a video. And like you said, you can just use an image slideshow of that venue, put it on YouTube, optimize it for the wedding venue itself, maybe call it a venue walkthrough, and that will rank really well. So good tactic.
That's amazing. I think that's such a good tip. Yeah, and in terms of the optics and aesthetics, can you imagine Oli, Erika, putting in GIFs? Is that an overload, or how many is too many? Like taking that opportunity, how can you imagine using those features?
I can't imagine myself using GIFs yet, to be honest.
Do you make GIFs?
What's that?
Do you make GIFs in your work? Yeah,
No,
so it's
I've got enough to focus on in a wedding day without making GIFs. And I try and stay away from things that are trendy. And I kind of feel like they're a bit trendy. So
yeah, that's fair. There's some who I feel like really make amazing GIFs that are really thought out and bring emotion into it. And then some that are just done spur of the moment. I mean, it works for each person. It's different, right? And it's about who you're serving. But it's having the opportunity, I think, is great, because these are things like even the fact that we have different layouts available to us in blogs makes things so much easier, and we can just bring, spice it up a little bit. That's what I found to be true when I was playing around with blogs on Pic-Time, which is amazing. Cool. So one of the most important questions I feel like is, okay, we've got this perfect blog in the end. How can photographers maximize the exposure of it? We talked a little bit about it with you, Erika, earlier, but let's bring it to Oli. Like, once you have your blog post, how do you get it out there and milk it to the best of your abilities?
This is a rad question because I can answer it from the point of view of someone that is about to do that stuff and put their new site out and put some effort into blogging. So I actually have to answer that question for me, which is interesting. So you've got me on the spot here. Thank you, Aida. I would say, because with the Pic-Time blogs, you can export a video preview of that blog as you are panning down it, which is unbelievable. So to be able to export videos like that, I think is a huge thing. For me, I would want to be, because I want to tackle, the new generation who are interfacing with content in ways that I'm not yet familiar with, without me feeling like I need to be multi-platform, which means nailing storytelling on Instagram, for example. So I want to use carousel thoughtfully. I want to exploit the formats that I'm on and investing effort in, and showcasing the blogs on there. So yeah, I'd be exporting those videos that you can do in the Pic-Time blog, exporting those previews, because it gives it just shows them exactly what they're in for, right? Like, if most people are doing less blogs these days, that visual language is getting lost. So to see a video preview that I can export gives them compulsion to click it and follow through with it. That'd be one thing I'll do anyway, hopefully.
So it will be on the story, Reels, or Facebook, where do you, And you talked about the carousel. How do you do that, the carousel? Like you'll take a few snapshots from the blog for the carousel? How would you do that?
So I would do that. I would take the power images and kind of communicate, hey, there's 10 or 12 here, but there's 50 more awesome ones in this blog post. I'm a huge believer in still image. I don't think video is taking over. I have my best ROI on still carousels. I think they kick ass if they're done carefully and thoughtfully. So I think the still image format is not going to go away, especially as people get video fatigued or GIF fatigued. So using carousels effectively has been a huge thing for me. And yeah, just creating that desire to go, hey, like if you enjoy this short form storytelling, it's expanded on the blog, I think will be super important.
This is good. It wasn't planned, but I have to tell you that tomorrow, or you're on the early production group, so it's already on your servers. We added the capability to download snapshots from the blog, especially for carousel. So basically, when you do that, you can click a few downloads and then upload it for carousel. So.
That's amazing.
It's kind of a feature we did. We didn't really know how much of an interest would be around it. The video, we knew that people would love the video. Now we're adding this for the carousel.
So good.
I saw, Erika, that you say that you think it's good as well. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because you said that, like, also that there are the capabilities of sharing blog posts to Pinterest from the Pic-Time blogs is going to be massive for a lot of people who use.
So yeah, so today this is more, yeah, so today it's more technical, but today you can share, if you have the extension, we are adding, I think it's next week. It was supposed to be tomorrow, but it was delayed. So next week, we're going to add the native support also. So you can switch it on and off whether you want it or not.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. We are wrapping up right now. So we have a last question before we go. So people want to know, should we go back and redo and repost each of our blogs using Pic-Time blogging feature? Maybe Amir, you might be the one who wants to answer that. Should people be doing that?
I didn't understand the question.
If they should be going back and redoing and reposting their blogs. So make from the blogs they've made before is how I understand it, using Pic-Time. Is it worth redoing blog posts they already have that are up?
So if you already did something, unless you have a good motivation of changing it to Pic-Time, I wouldn't know to tell people, yeah, if you have something which looks good and now go and redo it. I'm not sure, unless you want to get off of another platform or something like that. But beside that, I think focus on the future, bring new content in. I think that would be a more, so if you don't have a good reason for retouching the old ones, that you don't like them, or they just, as I said, you want to get away from this platform, then no, focus on your new content. The big value that we see, we try to bring. So people that did blogs and had a good mechanism, fine, you can keep on doing it. The main focus for us was to make it easy for people that found it too complicated for them to blog on each event and to have fresh content. So the idea is that you'll have all the time fresh content that will be show your current work, your current style. So I think that looking forward is the better approach.
That makes total sense. Thank you so much. We have a lot of questions coming in, which we cannot address, which we're so sorry that we can't get to all of them. But I want to tell everyone who's attending that you can go to the resources of each of the presenters because they have amazing resources. So before we finish, I know there are people asking what happens if we've made blogs on Pic-Time, but we want to quit our subscription. Amir, what is the solution to that?
Okay, so this was something that came very strong on the beta. We didn't plan for this kind of question at the beginning. For why would we want to do Pic-Time? No, but seriously, if you have a blog resources because you invested and it's embedded into your website, we added a retention policy. It's $12 a year, $120 for 10 years. So it's like, it's something that business-wise it doesn't, it's not a consideration, I think, and it will keep your blogs live. So I think from that perspective, there's no worry. On the other side, I want to mention, if we're talking about moving platform, you may want to change your website platform. And if you do that, then having the blogs from Pic-Time would make a very easy transition to another blog, another website platform, versus if it's already entrenched into the old website and it's a lot of work, to redo everything from the beginning. So that's the other side that we see.
Exactly, because all you do is copy paste the code in there. It is genius. We love it. Thank you so much to all the panels for your time, your wisdom, your insights. It's been incredible. We've spent so much time together. Thank you so much. Like I said to everyone, so sorry that we can get to all your questions, but watch the replay. Check out all the resources from the panelists. And if you have any questions about setting up, there is a team behind Pic-Time who's always ready to answer your questions.
Yeah, and I also want to thank you very much for participating. It was really enlightening for me, and I also took some ideas that we may incorporate to help people have the recommendations you gave in an easier way. It was really, really interesting for me. So thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Sleep well, Oli, and have a good time. Everyone else, have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, Amir, as well. Take care.
Bye, Aida. Thank you very much. Aida.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I was leaning back because you were flowing all the time.
Taking over. No, thank you so much. Really was such an amazing opportunity. Thank you. Take care, everyone.